Okay, so this is a part 2 of the FP&A project for beginner. So we did in Power Pivot, we consolidated these 6 input form, which represents the forecasted number of units to be sold in 2026 per product subcategory. And here we have a connection to the system that gives us the actuals. And so we consolidate everything into one Power Query. And now we're going to build measures to analyze the variances of actuals against our budget. So first step will be to load the final query into the data model. So to do so, I right click on the query that I need to load, select load to, and I check add this data to the data model. So the data will be loaded, and we will go into the Power Pivot editor to see what happened. So if I click on it, I see that I have now the result of my query. And here I can change the format. I cannot change the data type, but I can change the format. So I'm going to keep it like this. And now I can go and insert a pivot table based on my data model. So I'm going to build a very simple report. So with quantities, I'm going to put my scenarios next to each other. I'm going to filter on 2026, and I'm going to select one country. So 2026, Canada. I don't need to have the total by rows. So I'll remove that. Okay. So my first measure I'm going to do is my variance units. So to add a measure, I go here on the pivot Power Pivot ribbon and click New Measures. So I'm going to call it Variance Units. So what we're going to see here is the DAX language, which is the language used in Power BI and Power Pivot. I'm going to explain here what's happening. So I'm using the function calculate. What's the function calculate does it? You can do an aggregation on the fly and put some filter on it. So in this case, what I want to do is put the filter on scenarios, because I want to do my actual values minus my budget to have the variance. For the actual, I can just hard code it the value, because it's this scenario will never change. But in the case where I would have multiple scenario, I want to make it more dynamic. So in that case, I will add a variable to which I use the max aggregation. So there would only be one scenario at a time. So you just need to have scenario is in the context. So I'm going to click OK on this. And now I have my variance. Now the values are duplicated because I kept my scenario here. I'm going to move this as a filter, and I'm going to select only budget. And I will remove the total quantity because now in this format it doesn't make sense. And here I have my variances, unit variances for budget against actuals. So just to validate the data, I will copy paste this pivot table, and I will put back my scenarios as columns, and I will use the total quantity. The variance works. Now the next measure I'm going to build is I'm going to have the same calculation, but I'm going to have as a percentage. So I'm going to call this one variance percentage. So paste it here. Okay, so in this case, I changed a little bit the format. I put all the values as variables. So it's cleaner. So I put my actual, my forecast, and I do the percentage calculation. So in this case, I'm going to put for a percentage format. So I put my percentages, and now I have again the expected results. So 93% off against budget, 900 units versus 62. So it's a pretty big gap, and that's exactly what I see here. So everything is working well. The third measure I want to build is for a specific period, I would like to have what is my full year forecast, being, let's say I'm in period 6. So I have all these actuals that I want to use for my full year forecasted value. And to that, I want to add the budgeted. So, for instance, if we're in P6, for instance, my expected result would be 6,934 units for that specific context. So this is the measure I want to build now. So again, measure, new measure. I'm going to call this one full year forecast. And I'm going to bring over my formula. Okay, so in that case, I want to have my period as a variable. So I use the same technique, variable, max, and whichever is in the context of the report, it will filter on it. And so here for my actuals value, I want everything equal or less than the selected sales period, which I have here. And for the budget, all the sales, the greater sales period greater than the one that is selected here. And same thing, I want to have my scenario dynamically. So I'm going to change the format and check the formula, no errors, and have my new. So here I'm going to add my new measure. Okay, so let's validate if it works. So let's say I'm in P2. So in P2, I want these as my actuals and these as my budgeted value. So 7,581, 7,581, and P6. So I have all of this. And it was my 6,934 that I was expecting. So next one, I want to have, if I want to compare the full year value of my actuals, the way I did it in this measure, but against the budget. But the budget, I don't want to filter on anything on a certain period. I want the full year so I can have this against my budget. So I'm going to have a fourth measure. And so in this one, I'm going to filter on the sales year value instead. So again, I use my calculate function, sum, scenario, but on sales year. And I have a third filter that I add, which is all period. I'm going to remove that one for now just to see what I am using it for. So I'm just going to put this. I'm going to call it full year forecast only. So this one, I don't want to see any actuals value. Okay, so I'm going to add it here. Okay, so now I see basically just the monthly values for each month, which is not what I want. So in that case, basically what I don't want my measure to filter on period at all. So I want it to completely ignore any period in the context, whether it's a filter or a row or whatever. To do so, I need to add this filter that basically is the opposite of a filter, and it's this all period statement, which is I'm going to put here. So this statement tells my calculate function, do not filter, take all the period, ignore all the filter or the context filter on sales period. So I'm going to click OK. So now we can test. So basically just the full year. So I can compare my forecasted value with the actuals plus whatever is left in the budget against my beginning of the year budget. So this was these basic variance analysis measure that I wanted to show you. In the next video, I will import this data model into Power BI so we can do graphs and use these nice measure that we just built for a dashboard.